There's just a ton of new innovation that's now coming into the industry. There's, on the development side, there's just a huge amount of new startups that are helping developers understand power options because power is a big issue with the demand from AI. So there are solutions out there. There's some great ones that are helping data center providers, but also industrial owners understand what power sources are available for that particular asset, because that's becoming a real issue for a lot of companies.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Keeping It Real Estate. I'm your co-host, Dan Breezy, and today we have Michael Beckerman joining us on the show. Michael is the CEO of CREtech, the largest conference company focusing on technology and sustainability in the built world. With that said, Michael Beckerman, welcome to the show.
Hey, Dan, good to be with you. I'm a fan of what the podcast and all the great work that you and your colleagues are doing. So it's a pleasure to join you.
Great to have you here. So it's CREtech, right? It's not CREtech, it's CREtech.
Like we say it internally, CREtech, but
Okay.
There's too many issues going on in the world for us to get sensitive about how you refer to our name. So don't worry.
Perfect. I appreciate the flexibility. So diving right into it, your guys' mission is to drive tech adoption in all asset classes. Is that correct?
That's it, Dan. I spent my whole career in commercial real estate. The first, say, like 30 years was more on the media side, representing a lot of big real estate companies, regional real estate companies, and their sort of media relations. Built a big firm doing that. And so I only know the real estate industry, not really so much anything on the consumer side. It's all sort of multifamily, office, logistics, now data centers. And so when I was looking for something else to start and to do and wanted to have an impact, because that's sort of like what I love to do, I was like, well, there's no tech sector focused on the largest asset class, the largest real industry in the world. So let me see if I can go obviously with a bunch of others, see if we can go build one. And so here we are, about 7-8 years in.
Cool. I love it. So, not specifically focusing on, specific exact applications, high level speaking here, what is it that you guys are looking to bring value to specifically? Let's call multifamily. Obviously, we got multifamily and office space, like you just mentioned. We're all multifamily at this time. What is it that high level you guys are looking to create for owners? Is that the goal?
Yeah, I mean, so our job is to be the catalyst, right? We're not a tech company, we're a conference company. So we have a big conference in New York, and then we do one in London where we bring a couple thousand people together. The three primary food groups at the show would be the real estate industry. So this could be the CEO, the CTO, or CFO. It could be individual investors that want to come and see what's happening. So there's a lot of sort of smaller investors and what have you. And then there is venture. Venture capital is really key to our ecosystem. And then there's the technology companies themselves. So, the startups. And so what my job is to try and be a catalyst to get the real estate industry to be thinking about technology and then to hopefully deploy some of these tools within their organization. The first couple of years, Dan, again, based on my relationships with the real estate industry, we were able to get, all the big brands, all the big logos on multifamily. You've got Avalon, you've got Essex, Cortland, Greystar. You can get all the big brands, and they do invest a lot. And then on the office side, get all the big REITs, all the big owners like Brookfield to Blackstone. But where I've been focusing the last couple of years is like, okay, how do we get the next layer of real estate companies to see the advantages of deploying some technology, right? A lot of them don't have technology officers, don't have the expertise in-house. So, it's really trying to help them understand like these are some like low-hanging fruit tools that you could use on multifamily. It could be a leasing agent, like a bot. It could be visitor management and access, getting in and out of a property using your phone. It could be about, decarbonization and some climate solutions. I mean, there's literally, Dan, there's 10,000 solutions. So it's really just my job is to sort of like raise the level of awareness and then help do some matchmaking at our conferences to get them to pay, say, you know what, I could do a better job understanding the performance of my portfolio, and there's some solutions. I could do a better job communicating with investors. There's a solution. I could do a better job getting in and out of buildings, being really using your phone. Or there's things like tenant experience, which are big. So you own a multifamily property. There's apps that will program your property management as well as like your storage and amenities, and it's just across the board. There's just a lot. So that's what we're trying to drive impact wise.
Got it. So let's just say you're in my shoes and you have several assets in Dallas, Fort Worth, and Nashville, Tennessee, and you know what you know. What would be some of the efficiencies you're seeing in technology that would be the most advantageous you'd immediately put into your multifamily properties? Call them 120 to 400 unit apartments.
That's a great question, Dan. It's not one size fits all. So it's a great question, and one I get asked a lot. I would say, like, look, well, you've got to bifurcate that question in like sort of two parts. There's the operation side of the business, the owner, right? What could
Mhm.
they be doing better? Whether it's like understanding their leases, their rent rolls, their, like I said, investor communication. It could be just better accounting tools. So there's corporate. I don't mean to suggest big company, because we've got companies that own 25 units, 50 units, 100 units, or some of them are just passive investors and they want to see what's going on in the ecosystem showing up. So there's this sort of the corporate or company operating level, and there's a lot there. Depending upon where their inefficiencies are. And then there's the property level. On the property level, some of the really big solutions that have really scaled, they're ones that, and you think about through COVID, what were the challenges? Well, physical tours. Well, that has still stuck, where a lot of multifamily owners are doing digital tours using a bot. So it's like somebody comes to the website, just like you would if you were shopping for a car now, and you see, hey, how can I help you? What car are you looking for? What are you looking to do? A trade in or this or that? Like, leasing has become incredibly digital and virtual. So that's a big part. Another part, if it is it like there's resident screening from fraud detection now, because apparently, which is new to me, multifamily's got a huge problem with fraudulent applications. You're nodding your head because man. Like, so there's things that, like, okay, somebody's applied to rent at our property, and we want to make sure, so there's a company called Get 100, which is a partnership with Clear, that they're just doing all sort of pre-screening on residents. There are things like on site having to do with digital property management to make sure that process is much more automated. So I think at the end of the day, Dan, the reason why companies should be investing in technology is not because it's cool or it's fun, or it's nothing like that. It's because you can do more with less people. You can enhance the efficiencies within your company, and you could be more appealing to potential renters or people that might be leasing your building. So right now, while everybody's sort of, choking on interest rates or inflation or supply chain, I mean, we're getting more interest because they see technology as a way to help mitigate some of those risks and those costs.
Yeah. Yeah. It seems like a no brainer to me. Um, just high level looking at some of the things we're doing, we've
Yeah, tell me.
implemented, yeah, Elise AI. Is that
Yeah.
something that fits
Yep,
in the
that's what I was thinking
technology?
about, the tours. Yep, a great one.
Yeah. Yeah. So they've helped us significantly with when we've got one person, we call it one in, one out. You got one person in the office, one person taking care of maintenance. Well, when that one person's, potentially on a tour and the phone rings, who
Yeah,
picks up the phone? And so this is Elise AI. It's a bot and, really steps in almost like another person and has helped us become more efficient with our properties in that way.
that's great.
And, as AI continues to roll out, is what you're talking about mainly AI or is it something different?
No, Dan, it's great question. And it's great to see you're using Elise because they're AI. They're a great company and they're one of the ones that have really scaled in multifamily. I'd say probably in the multifamily space, there's RealPage, there's MRI, Yardi's big player of that. But in terms of like new companies, I mean, they've done phenomenally well and have great traction. And it's solving, like you said, Dan, pain point. I mean, AI is a game changer for technology sector because what it allows a technology company to do is to really offer solutions that are incredibly intuitive and proactive. So, there's this evolution of AI now with an AI agent. So it's literally having like, a virtual assistant to do a lot of work for you, whether it's abstracting leases, working on your accounting, working on your property, and it's all proactive. So it's a game changer because for a lot of companies that, again, like I said, there's maybe there's 100, 250 companies, Dan, in multifamily and office that have like a full-time dedicated technology strategist, IT team. A lot of companies just have not invested in that. They haven't had to. Things have worked pretty well in real estate, as you know, being such a successful investor. But now it's increasingly that companies are looking at the way they do things and going, there's a faster, simpler way that we can do things that'll save on the human side of it, where we don't have to invest in as many people, unfortunately, and we can be smarter as an organization. It's not to suggest ever that they're going to eliminate everybody. It's to say, listen, with this leasing bot, with this leasing agent, abstracting all your leasing data so that you now know better understanding of when all your rents are rolling and at what price and all these other variables that are in your data, but within your organization, what the leasing agent could do is just go extract it for you,
Yeah.
present it to you, so that you can sit there and make better informed decisions. So yeah, AI it's a game changer because it's enabling the tech companies to offer solutions that, honestly, they're easier to onboard and they don't cost as much.
Yeah. We're implementing EOS into our company. It's an entrepreneur organization system that helps our company and our team members be extremely organized on our biggest rocks and 30, 60, 90-day goals. And they create a 10-year, 3-year, 1-year plan. And so in that group and in that implementation process, our implementer suggested we get with a company that sits with us to discuss our biggest pain points in our multifamily syndication company, Granite Towers. And they help us pinpoint specific AI tools that can help us resolve the biggest problems we're dealing with that align with what they call in EOS, the hedgehog concept. The hedgehog concept, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't understand what that is, it's a new term to me just a few months ago, is what can you be the best in the world at? What is it that you as your company separates you from everybody else that you guys, the team is laser focused at being the absolute best in the world at? And then how do you pair AI with that hedgehog concept to make you even better and more efficient? So it sounds like what you're saying, and the idea of bringing in, what did you say? They have IT tech full-time
Yeah,
positions, and we're looking at bringing in an AI implementer,
yeah,
somebody
great.
that this is all they do. They are overseeing what is happening in the world of AI and what technology is the best, because it seems like if you're not hip and quick on the AI, you're going to be left behind.
Yeah, that's why you guys are, in my mind and many others, you guys are on the leading edge of what you guys do, and you're really good at it because you're recognizing that there's ways to get better using AI and technology to make you more customer responsive, to make you a better investor because you'll have better data and information that sits within your company. So it's extracting it, right? Even on the marketing front. I mean, so when I look at like AI, there are solutions like Elise AI and many others that are built to solve a problem that are point solutions and more. But I also, so those are like technology companies. I also believe in what you're doing, which is just using technology and immerse it throughout your entire organization because you should and you can. I mean, I do. I mean, whether it's like simply writing a letter or working on a deck or a document or something like there's so many basic ways that you could use AI today just to to get better. And it's not cheating. It's just smarter.
Yeah, and one of the tools, and I'm sure everyone listening has heard all about it, right? Chat GPT, and just the amount of data. And they have an advanced version that we've paid a little bit of money for. And so as we're looking to build out different segments of their company, it's unbelievable how much data and the accuracy of the data. And obviously it's not always perfect yet, but it has been such a linchpin for us to head down different segues to help us become more efficient and better at what we're looking to create. And so the hiring an AI implementer, it seems like a no-brainer. And within 90 to 120 days, I think it'll be pretty damn clear if the investment in that AI implementer has brought income into the company. So relatively small risk in our eyes for potentially a massive reward. How do you see that when you're looking at that, Michael?
I think it's spot on, Dan. You're on the leading edge of where I think what a real estate organization, no matter what part of the industry that they're in, is going to look like in the next 5-10 years. So you're an early adopter, which is great. Because I think the other message is that a lot of real estate companies don't understand how much data they actually have within their organization that's just completely unstructured. And so it's not even so much like getting market data or looking to outside sources of data. It's like just understanding what you've got, what you have in terms of properties that are performing better, from a cash flow perspective, from a lease up perspective. I mean, it's a sea change. I think like as long as I've been in the real estate industry, which is a really, really long time, the first sort of wave was everybody would just look at historical data. You're too young to remember, but that's what they used to do. It's like, what happened in the last quarter? What happened correlate that to the last year? And you make decisions based on historical data. Then it became, okay, like, what can we absorb that's external data and bring in a lot of data sources into helping us make decisions. So it could be crime, it could be demographics, it could be, so it was like the unbundling of all and the democratization of like data, right? All at the fingertips of real estate. Now, I think it's today where companies are focused is like, what's under our own hood? What's in our own house? And how do we not spend hours and hours and hours going to look for it, right? Who's got the latest pro forma on this property? Who's got this? This is where AI is going to take real estate companies. It's going to be at your fingertips. You're going to have it. And the agent will be able to go get it. And they'll be able to get it seamlessly and quickly. And it'll help you become a better operator and an investor and a partner. And I think that's where it's ultimately going. So we've got specific solutions, but I think it's really about companies just operating more efficiently and better, irrespective, Dan, of the size. Like, this is not about if you've got 50 units or 50,000. It's about just doing better. And we're not talking big CapEx expenditures either. But there's just a ton of new innovation that's now coming into the industry. There's, on the development side, there's just a huge amount of new startups that are helping developers understand power options, because power is a big issue with the demand from AI. So there are solutions out there. There's some great ones that are helping data center providers, but also industrial owners understand what power sources are available for that particular asset, because that's becoming a real issue for a lot of companies. There's also startups that are technology companies that are helping developers understand which municipalities they are more likely to get approvals for development projects than others before they make the decision to acquire a property. There's one coming out called Gather Gov, which is very much focused on that. So look at 500 municipalities and like this, understand that there's no way you're getting approvals in that town because they have a sewer moratorium like
Hmm.
that.
Hmm.
You
Wow.
know,
Wait, I want to just touch back on your power issues you're talking about. Can you
yeah.
can you talk more about what you're seeing when you're talking about power issues? Like what do you mean by that?
So I really think the biggest challenge facing the real estate industry over the next, whatever, it's not a cycle or two. I really think that this is going to be a very, very, very long tail challenge. Well, I think the big one is going to be supply chain. I think labor is still a problem. Materials is going to be a problem, the cost of materials. But really, the big one is that because AI is requiring so much power, with these data centers that, whether it's ChatGPT and OpenAI, but it's Microsoft, it's Meta, it's just an explosion of demand for these power centers to power, or these data centers to power AI, because every time you do a query, it just creates so much demand for energy. So you look at the marketplace, and you've got a warehouse and a data center in the same basic location. There's not enough power to go around. There's not enough energy to go around. The grid, the utilities, it's archaic, and they're broken, and they're frail. So the big race in the future is going to be to access power. I hear stories all the time where somebody will buy a warehouse or buy a property, and I'm not talking like Manhattan or Chicago. I'm talking like out in throughout the country, and they can't get power to their building for 6 months, and they got a tenant moving in. That's a real problem. So there's a lot of technology solutions that are working on informing this company, this data center, if they can get power, and two, what are the sources of power? It's clean energy, increasingly, because the fossil fuels just doesn't pencil out. We just can't make any more, despite the narrative that exists. So I think the biggest sort of existential threat facing the built environment long term.
Got it. So as you're CEO of CREtech, you lead the largest conference company in technology and sustainability for the built world. How do you see these conferences really driving innovation, and how do they foster collaboration in the industry? If our listeners are wanting to learn more about going to your two big events, what would be the benefits they would receive by being there?
Thanks, Dan. Just I would say, just first of all, show up. It's at the Javits Center in New York. It's a big space. Just show up, and there's a couple different ways that people experience the conference. One, we have a keynote stage, so there you'll see CEOs of typically very large real estate companies. So we've had Ben Shaw, the CEO of Avalon Bay. We've had the CEO of Pulte. We've had the CEOs of Essex Property Trust, and you also see this technology people from other real estate companies, Bazzuto's and EQ Equity Residential. These are at scale, and you'll see some big REITs on the office side as well. And what they'll talk about is just innovation in a very broad sense. Like you mentioned, the lease AI. They might talk about leasing bots. They might talk about AI. There's also a lot of big brokerage firms where we had the CEO of JLL, Christian Ulbrecht, gave a keynote at our London conference, just talking about the workplace and innovation and trends and development and what have you. We have CEOs from the construction sector talking about, technology on the construction side, how buildings are being built more efficiently and what have you. And then there'll be a trade show floor where there'll be lots of booths, and you could go and get immersed with the technology providers. And then we have meetings. So there's a huge meeting zone where we have an app, and companies can come and set up meetings with some technology companies that they might find of interest. And for the New York show, Dan, in October, we've actually just launched a new program, which is to any real estate companies. I'll tell anybody in your audience that's a real estate investor, owner, operator that's interested in technology, we have a new meetings program which offers them a free ticket to participate in the meeting. So it's a light lift of maybe an hour or two. We get you a few meetings based on what you're interested in, no cost to the ticket, and then you got the rest of the day to walk around and get immersed in the space. So hopefully it's a no-brainer, Dan.
Let me make sure I follow that. So your New York event in October, you purchase a ticket to be able to show up, and in that ticket purchase, there are opportunities to sit with specific technology companies to see if it's a good fit for your company.
It's completely free for a real estate company. It's completely free. There's no cost to attend.
Your conference is completely free
for real estate companies. Yeah, for the technology companies, no. But if anybody in your audience wants to come, and I get you the link, you just got to fill out this form, and they go. And they participate in a couple of good meetings.
Yeah, great. And it's a how many days event, and how many 2-day event, and how many people are usually there to
3,000.
3,000. So it's a large event.
It's a big event over 2 days. It's exhausting, but it's good. It's exhausting for me.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Hopefully you'll be there, man. Hopefully you'll be there.
Yeah, yeah, and then there's another one. When's the second one?
London. This one for London this year is in July, so that's going to come first. But the, uh,
Okay.
the the New York is where we started. That's the flagship. But Europe is also a very important market to us. I'd love to understand from you, Dan. Like, tell me some of the trends that you're seeing in the marketplace in the multifamily side. That because what we try and do is like I'm always trying to follow the market, right? At CREtech, because like so if it's SFR or single family rentals, or if it's data centers, what types of multifamily, where, and that's where CREtech goes because that's where the real estate industry. So, what sort of exciting trends are you seeing in your marketplace in multifamily today?
Yeah, yeah, I wouldn't say they're necessarily exciting
That's
trends,
okay,
but
man.
some of the trends we're seeing as we're going through this particular market cycle is higher delinquency and higher eviction costs.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, one of the trends that has gotten a little more popular in Dallas and several other call them blue states is you've got a lot of attorneys at the court steps helping residents stay in their units with not paying rent. And you've got the apartment association who's drastically, going at it because at the end of the day, when you're running a business and you buy an apartment and you put debt on it, ideally it's low leverage. Obviously, the only way you can service the apartment is by collecting rent to pay for the debt, pay for the utilities, pay for your payroll, pay for the deferred maintenance, take care of all the units. And what's interesting about it is that these attorneys are so on the side of the residents. And, I was raised in central Minnesota, middle class as you can get, raised literally paycheck to paycheck by hardworking parents, and was broke at 21 years old. So, and I rented an apartment and I never didn't pay my rent. It
Yeah.
wasn't even an option in my mind. Like I've agreed to an agreement, I put the lease down, and that agreement is going to be upheld. And for whatever reason, there is a thought and a theory and a argument that it's okay for residents to not pay their rent and to maintain and control these units. And what's happening and what will happen is that you're going to continue to see a deterioration of the quality of the asset because there isn't money to pay for it. Landlords aren't just a pocketbook of cash. Some of them are strapped just like anybody else. And so if you're not collecting your rent and you're not able to take care of the property, it's a downward spiral. And it's not just a downward spiral for the owners, it's a downward spiral for all the residents and the submarket, because then comes in more crime and more vacancy, more problems, and it's not useful. Like if you want to have a really peaceful, beautiful place to live, you got to have integrity on the resident side, integrity on the owner side. And so, if there was one thing that I would love to see the trend reverse on, and maybe it's, the market cycle because we came off this really high and we're going through some pain here, is something to help with evictions and delinquency that was absolutely spot on every time, because it's easy to file an eviction and then you go to court because you have to get them evicted, and then the judge says you didn't dot this I or cross this T, or it's not filled under the right LLC, and now you got to serve another 30-day notice. And so here we are back 30 days later filing another eviction. So that's a huge trend that's really a big challenge for us right now.
So, Dan, that's exactly the point that I want to emphasize is what I hope and I know that my community of technology providers can solve, right? Like that's why I always want to hear whether it's good stuff or the pain points from professionals like you, because then my work is to go revert back and say, hey, this is a problem. So this is sort of like what I do a lot in my time is to try and connect the two ecosystems so that what's being built for the real estate industry is something that they need. I appreciate you bringing that up. I've had
Yeah.
personal experience with that, by the way, not on the renter side, but on the owner side. So I have the scars for it. Trust me. The pain I remember. But like this startup called Get 100, like that's something that the audience should look at if there's similar problems that they're facing with maybe poor quality tenancy. Do a better job on the screening, perhaps. I know that's not the easy answer because I know a lot
Yeah.
of people get in and that's what and they just refuse to pay and they stay in. But like these are the types of solutions that we're trying to build an ecosystem to address. So the more that you can, share like those kind of anecdotes, the better, man.
Yeah. Yeah. If someone can help solve that easy one-stop shop AI department that says, hey, we've vetted, we have looked, this
Yeah,
is a legitimate resident. No, this is not, to
yeah,
help the on-site team members because they're doing their dang best, and
of
there's a
course.
lot of different pieces of software that are coming out to help with that.
Yeah, great.
But I don't think there's been one that's been like, this is the cream of the crop that if you use this, you're going to drastically see a difference in, delinquency and higher evictions.
Yeah,
Yeah, other trends we're seeing is obviously just higher costs in everything, as far as construction and capex and payroll. I mean, it's just a higher and more expensive
yep,
cost per door than it was 3 to 5 years
yep,
ago.
yep.
And so, now when you're buying it, it's great to have those numbers because now when you're buying, you're using a much higher, much more inflated cost expense per door. But 3 years ago, before COVID really took off, you're using a very different number. So ideally, you had a bunch of rent growth to offset that now, but that's definitely another trend that I'm sure you're hearing about everywhere.
Yeah, and again, I don't know that. I mean, I'm not a sophisticated investor like you guys, but I don't know that that's going to be reversed anytime in the near future. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
such a large problem, and but again, like is what you guys are doing on the AI front. Like, look within your organization where you find waste and where you can do things better with less. And that's where a lot of these solutions are aiming, that can help, whether, it's construction side. So there's a ton of great construction startups. Just, there's trunk tools, there's AI clearing, there's a lot. There's also other ones with like vendor procurement, like vendor PM is a great one where just saving time, making sure, going out and getting the best vendors to bid on a small or big job within that needs to be repaired or what have you on site. There's other ones on like insurance verification to make sure you got all your insurance. Like there's one called Jones Software, and so they might not incrementally like drop dramatically to the bottom line, but if you deploy enough of those and you save time on having to go look, search, and you could do things a little bit faster, a little bit more efficient, your teams will be much, much more effective. So that's what I was saying when you asked me about like where the market is, some of the trends are. It's really two areas. So it's the property level, me to lease, let me lease apartments using a leasing bot when I don't have somebody in the leasing office and do it really seamlessly because that's how people like to search now and do everything online. They like to search first, or it's on your own company, no matter how big it is, 5 people or 500 people, more efficient, more efficient. I think that's the age that we're living in finally in the real estate industry, and I think that's a good thing. Like the days of rising tide for everything in real estate, those days are gone, at least for the foreseeable future. So, how do you squeeze more profit? These are some of the ways you do it.
Yeah, I love it. Well, great. So, one last little tidbit I'd
Yeah,
leave before, we start to wind this down. Gemini is a simple little AI tool on our email and Google Gmail. Like, man, when you get done drafting an email and you push polish, it's unbelievable how
yeah,
well AI can reword what I was wanting to say to make it sound perfect. And it literally takes 5 seconds, like, or less. Boom, polish. Wow, it looks really great. Send. So, these little tools will go a long ways. And I'm looking forward to the next decade of rolling out the best AI
great thing.
technology for our company as we've, focused further on our hedgehog concept. It's something else that I think I'd leave with the listeners. If you guys are building a company, good to great,
Oh yeah,
unbelievable book. I've talked about it a lot in recent podcasts.
great.
Just talks about how the companies that had massive acceleration and massive growth year over year understood what they were going to be the best in the world at, and then layered the correct technology at the right time to further thrust their growth. So glad you came on with us, Michael. One question I like to ask our guests before we part ways is any good book recommendations, something that's really made a positive impact on you lately that is worth reading?
Oh my gosh, well, I read a ton, Dan. I don't, a ton. I mean, I'm a pretty voracious reader. I don't honestly. A Good to Great is a great one. I mean, that's one of the classics. It's great. I don't read a ton of business books, so I'll read things like just autobiographies on
Mm.
people that overcame challenges. And I appreciated you sharing a little bit about your background. Mine's pretty similar. It was pretty rough. Different parts of I've been on my own since a very very young guy building. I didn't go to college, or I tried. And started working when I was 20, and not really having a lot of mentors. So what I always did was just drew inspiration from books, where I could follow a leader, not necessarily just in business, but in life. I mean, it could be from a Teddy Roosevelt to a Winston Churchill to the Dalai Lama or something like that. So, oh my gosh, there's so many. Um, there's so many. I think one of the ones I really loved, it's a couple years old. You got me on the spot. I would have prepared a long list for you. Shoe Dog, I thought was one of my favorites.
Shoe Dog Millionaire?
Well, the Shoe Dog, I think it's Shoe Dog. It's about the
Nike?
founder Phil Knight of Nike,
Yeah, yeah, Nike.
and it's the
Okay, yeah,
story about building Nike with a bunch of misfits, which I
yeah,
loved. Right, so it wasn't like what people would think, like, oh my gosh, they had this great vision, and no, they were a bunch of misfits. Another good one that my friend gave to me is, I think it's called The Go Giver, which
mm,
is about just having a philosophy in life of just helping people no matter what, never asking anything in return. So, for me, I not to get all personal, like I've been a Buddhist for a very long time. So it's like anything about doing good, helping people, living a good life in terms of relationships, and just being a force of good and change. I think inspires me. So those are two that come to mind. But man, I could give you a
I
ton of.
appreciate it. I appreciate it. Yeah, Shoe Dog I've read, The Go Giver I know I've heard, but I don't
Yeah,
think
go
I've
check that
actually
one out.
read it.
It's really
Okay,
inspiring. I mean, yeah,
cool.
I could go on and on and on about the books that I've read, from Man's Search for Meaning, which is Viktor Frankl's incredible book, to oh my gosh, so many. I mean, I literally have like half a dozen books on my end table, all at any given time, and I just go through them
Well,
all.
great. Well, I appreciate it,
All right,
Michael,
Dan, my
and
pleasure,
thank you
man.
for
And keep up
joining.
the
Yeah,
great work.
yeah,
You're seriously, with the podcast and all the great work you guys are doing. You're a great source of inspiration in terms of helping people understand where things are going, how to do things maybe a little bit better, a little bit smarter, and incremental change, man. Right? Like, it's not like you're just going to come in and rip out everything and replace, because this is a slow evolving
mhm,
industry.
yeah.
And so I appreciate all the great thought leadership that you and your colleagues are doing over there. So appreciate the
Yeah,
time.
you bet. If any of our listeners wanted to get a hold of you, is there a specific way they could reach out to you?
Mike, I make, my email is Michael at CREtech.com, CREtech.com, or, on LinkedIn. Those are two places where I'm pretty accessible. I respond to everything. So,
Awesome. Well, thank you so
all
much
right,
for
Dan,
joining
thanks,
us
man.
on today's
Real pleasure.
episode, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, we hope you found it both informative and entertaining. And if you enjoyed the episode, share it with your friends. And don't forget to subscribe, stay updated on our latest episodes with us, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for listening.